Well, joining us now to discuss the situation in the UN is Executive Director of UN Watch, Hillel Neuer. Hillel, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. What's the significance of these resignations of the Commission of Inquiry, and what will become of the commission now?
Well, look, it's unprecedented. This has never happened in the history of the United Nations, that an entire commission of inquiry has resigned. As you indicated, the timing says everything. This was announced just days after the United States imposed historic sanctions against Hamas terrorism supporter Francesca Albanese, someone who's been condemned by France, Germany, Canada, and many other countries for anti-Semitism and Holocaust inversion. The Secretary of State Rubio from the United States imposed historic, bold, and vital sanctions, which sends a message that if the United Nations decides to abuse and undermine their own founding principles of human rights and international law by naming overt supporters of terrorism, notorious anti-Semites like Francesca Albanese, the United States will be the adult in the room and will say no. And, Guterres had many occasions to speak out on this issue. He was approached by the United States. They've sent him letters. And for over 3 years, he's been silent. And so for the UN to say, well, you should have used UN mechanisms, no, the United States went to the UN. The United States opposed her reappointment. They ignored everything. This is the results. You mess around, you find out.
Well, now you've done amazing work really exposing the corruption of Francesca Albanese, who, as you mentioned, was just sanctioned by the U.S. Yet this Hague group, the event that took place with 30 countries, is continuing, as well as the anti-Israel bias in the international community. What else can or should be done in order to stop the activities of Francesca Albanese, who is so clearly biased against the state of Israel?
Well, let's just clarify, of course, the Hague group has nothing to do with The Hague itself. I've been to The Hague and I've met with members of parliament who think Francesca Albanese is a horrible person. And thanks to UN Watch, the Dutch parliament in The Hague disinvited her from speaking in the Dutch parliament. So this is a group of radical anti-Western states. You mentioned some of them. Colombia today is radical left extremist anti-American. South Africa basically seems to be on the Qatari or the Iranian payroll. You have the Cuban communist regime and other countries that are either anti-Western or anti-Israel. So there's no way to stop those regimes from embracing a terrorism supporter, an enemy of America. She hates America. She says America was founded upon genocide. She's trying to sanction major American companies, whether it's Google, Amazon, or major investment companies. And, I was at the United Nations just about 2 weeks ago when she called to sanction American companies. It was only a few days later where suddenly Albanese herself became sanctioned by America. She's in a lot of pain because of that. You could see on the videos, she's suffering. Her life may become very difficult for her to carry on trying to attack America and Israel. Her credit cards are probably canceled. She has no access to any of the US banking system. She can no longer visit Harvard, Columbia, Georgetown, Princeton, where she was invited last year. That's over. So, the United States can shut her down. In terms of the UN needs to get the message. The UN needs to get the message, and Guterres needs to wake up. We know that he thinks she's a horrible person. She indicated in a video that I just posted today, as she was interviewed, she said, Guterres has never contacted me, never, and she doesn't expect it. So he thinks she's a horrible person, but due to political pressure, he's the ultimate politician, he's not speaking out. So we need the UN to step up to the plate, and if they can't fire these people, at least condemn them as people who obscenely violate the UN's founding principles.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be following this to see if the UN can step up a little bit, and not holding out a lot of hope for that based on their track record. But nonetheless, great work and continue doing so. Hillel Neuer from UN Watch.
Thank you.